And Carol Vorderman made her name on Channel 4 quiz show Countdown, but has recently turned her hand to radio with a weekly slot on BBC Radio Wales. Listen.
There's a chilling new drama, by the way, we're talking about villains, on BBC One from Monday with an all-star cast, including you, our Nathan the Queen.
Yes.
Of drama. It's the one and only Owen Teale. Hello, sir.
Hello.
This horror thriller, this, Wolf. Tell us what you're allowed to tell us. It starts on Monday, obviously, on BBC One.
Well,
But how can that show be possible, given the highly partisan Vorderman, who has been revealed for the world to see on social media, where the one-time maths czar for David Cameron has pulled a political U-turn and become, as one MP recently branded her, a celebrity attack dog against the Tories. In recent weeks, the BBC star has branded the government a, quote, lying bunch of greedy, corrupt, destructive, hateful, divisive, gaslighting crooks, and faced accusations of being a snob after taking aim at Conservative MP Johnny Mercer and his lack of a university degree, leading Mercer's parliamentary colleague Craig McKinlay to call for a BBC investigation into her painfully partisan social media posts. So where do you stand on this? As Vorders ploughs on with her reinvention as an anti-Tory attack dog, should the hard left activist be banned from presenting by the BBC? Dan at gbnews.com. Vote in our poll at GB News on Twitter. But let's debate this now in the studio with the social commentator Narinder Kaur and the former Conservative Minister Edwina Curry. Now look, Edwina, I actually have no problem with Carol Vorderman. She seems to have a problem with me lately. I've always got on really well with the woman. I used to work with her at ITV, really like her as a human being. If she wants to go down this very partisan path and embrace a hard left ideology, good on her. But, and there's a big but, Edwina, she has to give up her show on BBC Radio because it is not sustainable for her to do both.
Well, I think that's absolutely right. I mean, I do have a problem with Carol. One is that the way in which she puts her point of view is really quite vicious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anybody that's been in public life knows that, well, you can have an argument, debate about how to do things, about policy, but you might actually show some respect to the other person. Their point of view may be as valid as yours. And actually, in the long run, they may turn out to be right. You may well turn out to be wrong. So you try and treat people with some respect.
She's in the gutter.
You try and show other people how to behave. And she's doing exactly the opposite. Much of what she is saying is so unpleasant, so nasty, and so directed at the individual, not at the policy, that you think, oh, come on, you're going overboard. She used to be a Tory. She used to be a great pal of David Cameron. And I don't remember her being so very nasty then about the Labour Party and the opposition. But the other thing is, as you say, she currently has a live presentation on our national taxpayer-funded broadcaster. We don't have any choice. If we're going to listen to the BBC at all, we don't have any choice about paying for the licence fee. In fact, we can be in deep, deep trouble if we don't pay for the licence fee. Until fairly recently, you could find yourself going to jail.
Still can. Yeah, still can.
And that's not right.
Narinder, surely that's a fair point. If Vorders wants to become a hard left campaigner, that's what she now wants to be. Absolutely fine. Give up your show on the BBC, just like I would never believe that I should have a show on the BBC.
I disagree with all of that. I didn't actually know that she'd been unpleasant about you, so that's almost changed my opinion. However, I think Carol Vorderman does a fantastic job in calling out this government. I don't think she's anti-Tory, because as you just saw before,
Narinder.
She's anti what this government is doing in terms of how vile they've been. She's calling people out with evidence. So, and the other thing is, she's not actually an employee.
She doesn't have evidence, what she says.
Well, but she is calling out so many bad things that this government is doing that I applaud her. We need more people like her.
Okay.
And actually,
but why should she keep her show on the BBC?
But
though?
because the show has nothing to do with BBC News, and actually, she's a freelancer, and as a freelancer, she's also employed.
How would you feel if Nigel Farage got a show on BBC Radio Wales?
But her show is entertainment, so let me finish. Her show is entertainment. It's got nothing to do with news. Her tweets are what she puts out with the Tory government. She's calling out the Tory government.
Let me tell you something, because I was a presenter on BBC Radio 5 for 5 years, OK?
It would have been a political show.
And I was warned I was warned, particularly at election times, do not be political. Your job is...
But she hasn't been political. We saw it. She wasn't
there's
political.
There's a word called impartial.
And she is impartial on her show.
You have to be impartial. And
Dan, she is impartial on her show. Edwina, it's an entertainment show. And actually, I'll tell you what this is.
Let Edwina respond.
She's actually just... You're just upset.
Narinder, just let Edwina respond.
You can't do that. You cannot pretend to be impartial on that sofa and impartial on this sofa.
Right, it's called free speech.
Like that
it's
in real
called
life.
free speech, Edwina. It's called free speech. She's entitled to her opinion on her private social media.
Okay, but Narinder, just be honest.
Not on the
Just be
BBC
totally
shit.
honest with me. You would not feel the same if Nigel Farage or Jacob Rees-Mogg got offered a tea time show on BBC Radio 2. You would not feel the same. None of your left-wing mates would feel the same.
No, that's not true, because actually if they had their own show and they were impartial, and they're not impartial at GB News, we all know that, and I know BBC... No, because if Nigel Farage... Impartial. So if Nigel Farage had his own show on BBC and he wasn't impartial, of course I'd have a problem. But Carol Vorderman, it's not a political show. It's an entertainment show.
She's a political person.
No, she's not. She is a free citizen.
She has chosen
free speech.
to be a political person.
You can't in one hand say free speech, and then when someone comes along and then argues and says, actually,
to be honest,
calls people out.
To be honest, Narinder,
you can't say shut down free speech.
I actually think you can, and I'll tell you why.
How?
So you may notice that I was highly critical of Emily Maitlis when she chose to stay at the BBC and express left-wing opinions night by night on Newsnight. The moment that she left, I said, you know what? Good on her. She's made the right decision. She wants to be highly partisan. She can do it on her podcast.
Hasn't been talking politics on her BBC show. In fact, this is just BBC bashing. Edwina.
Final word, Edwina. Final word to Edwina.
Edwina, this is BBC bashing.
You have to let Edwina have the final word.
Let me tell you something. The BBC is a public service broadcaster. There are only one or two in this country. Channel 4 is another one, and they have to be impartial and seem to be impartial and behave as if they're they understand what impartiality is all about.
She can't her Twitter is free.
It was the BBC Director General Tim Davie himself who said all BBC presenters would be judged on what they posted on social media as well as what they said on air.
She is not employed by the BBC.
That was the definition of the Director General.
She's freelance, and it's free speech.
But look, Narinder Kaur, Narinder Kaur, great debate, knew it would be. BBC told us tonight they wouldn't comment on individual tweets, but stressed that there is an ongoing independent review into its existing social media guidance, especially for freelance staff. In other words, they have no answer to this. They're passing the buck for the moment. But who do you agree with? Should Vorders be banned from presenting on the Beeb? Yvonne, this is via the email. She writes, yes, she should give up her radio show. Her comments are disgusting. She's toxic. Trevor writes, this is via Twitter, I don't agree with her views or politics, but it's up to individuals to judge for themselves. So he's with Narinder on this. And from Graham, I'd ordinarily say yes, but I cancelled my TV licence a couple of years ago. So technically speaking, I'm not entitled to comment. And your verdict is now in. 45% of you agree that Vorders should be banned from presenting by the BBC. 55% of you going with the free speech champion Narinder. It's a bit of an upset tonight, but it was a close one.